Not the game we were expecting in that Concacaf Champions Cup between our Inter Miami Herons and LAFC. Inter Miami falling their first loss of the season last night in LA, 1-0. And some controversy, to say the least, with the goal scorer in the game, Nathan Ordaz, the young El Salvadorian striker, the 21-year-old. We'll get into all that. We're finally off the international break, too, folks. We got Premier League back. I heard about the Manchester United game, refused to talk about it. No. We'll talk about the United game. And then we got Champions League coming up on the 8th and the 9th. So Tuesday and Wednesday, we have our Champions League fixtures coming up. We will break those down. But this is episode number 3 of West Palm FC. Welcome on in. Mike Rizzo, Damian Perez, and Elias Bustamante here. And we got to start, boys, with that LAFC matchup for our Inter Miami Herons. Couple of things. I thought Messi was great. I thought he created. I thought he had the ball on the string. Outside of that, I really thought everyone else was bad. Now, you guys want to make a case for Yannick Bright. We'll get to that in a second. But I really thought the team did not respond well after the goal. I thought that, probably a red card. Hindsight 2020. Nathan Ordaz probably should have been sent off in that matchup. I kind of got mixed feelings on it. I see why they didn't, but I see why Mascherano, after the game, had some choice words on the Spanish side of things, which we'll explain. But I wanted to start with Elias first because we got to get used to this, right? I mean, they were going to win every single game this year. They were going to lose eventually. But this one stings a little bit because you want to win this CONCACAF, 100%. Certainly, and go to the next round.
Yeah, 100%. You want to win these games. First of all, good day, boys.
Yeah, welcome back.
We're back, and we didn't have a good night of sleep because we had to stay awake and see the game very, very late.
11:30 kickoff, by the way.
Necessary.
But we are here, and yes, I mean, Inter Miami, the bright spot for me was Yannick Bright. You say Messi played well. I disagree on that.
Okay.
I think him and Luis Suarez didn't have a good game, and also kudos to LAFC because their game plan, they did it very well. Perfect. And what's the plan? Let's make Luis Suarez and Lionel Messi not have a good game, not play. Let's pressure them, and that's what they did. Inter Miami didn't respond. I saw them, no ideas. So it's going to be a tough game next Wednesday.
Yeah, I think this is one of those standards of Messi's kind of thing because it's not the fact that he had a bad game. He didn't necessarily have a bad game, but it wasn't up to standards. We expect – and everybody does. Messi's one of the best players in the history of the sport. We expect so much more from him. And I think last night there was instances where you noticed that he was coming back from an injury. He was coming back from not having the consistency of playing much soccer after the World Cup break and the small discomfort that he had. So I think there was a bit of a getting your feet under you, getting the adjustment, because at times I feel like he was hesitating sometimes. There was times where, for example, Fafa Picault was projecting down the right, completely unmanned, and he didn't send the pass when he needed to. So, and I mean, we saw it. We saw it after the game. He walked off directly into the locker room, and there was a sense of frustration with Messi.
So you guys thought he was, in a sense, trying to do a little too much. Now,
not so much much, but I just don't think he was 100% informed.
I understand.
You look like disconnected,
which is normal.
Yeah,
sure. It's not to overreact.
I understand. I'm kind of on the flip side of things. I thought he played well enough. I thought he was playing guys on in the box, especially the 80th minute and on. I thought Inter Miami had a couple of chances in space in the box where Messi set them up where you could have got an equalizer. Now, the one that I looked at where I kind of was like, all right, maybe I could turn this off now, was when Messi had it. He had to go at it in about the 83rd, 85th minute. He had to go from it outside the box, and it was nowhere near on target. I'm like, all right, Inter Miami's probably going to get their first loss of the season. I thought he was good technically. I thought he had the ball on the string. But I understand the points of missing the passes when they were supposed to be there.
The ones he usually makes.
I'll listen to he was trying to do too much. But really, for me, boys, other than Lionel Messi, just because how great he is, maybe it speaks to the quality of Messi. But I thought other than Messi, everyone else was kind of rubbish.
No,
now,
100%.
Yannick Bright was he did what he usually does, right? The box-to-box midfielder, making plays, getting back on defense, making plays at the box, meaning making passes that could possibly lead to scoring chances. But Telasco Segovia, I thought, had his worst game as an Inter Miami Heron. I thought Noah Allen was shocking with a couple of the passes that he had late in the game. Jordi Alba was never, I don't think ever in that game. Now,
forgot he played.
I got to be honest. Like I'm not sitting here bashing Jordi Alba. He's one of the greats, but his passes that he's usually so technical with and great with, they weren't there. And I thought Suarez was probably the worst out of the big four.
Yeah, probably. And also, as you said, I mean, we can't win all the games. Let's be honest. But
that's why I said it's something we got to get used to. We were so used to winning.
But you know what worries me is like, and I know maybe it's the first time we see this type of this phase of Inter Miami. It's like 1-0 down and Mascherano doesn't react. He doesn't know what to do in that game, that specific game. And also, what's going to happen now when Inter Miami faces a big team like LAFC?
Sure, but to quickly to defend Mascherano, this was the first time. I know they went down to Atlanta United, and if I got to be fair here, if we were not knocking him for that Atlanta United game when they came back and won, let's be a little fair here, where it just wasn't Inter Miami's.
Yeah, night. I wouldn't overreact.
Right, I don't think it was Inter Miami's night.
I wouldn't overreact, and I would even go as far as saying I think in that game, Ordaz, which ultimately decided the game, scoring the goal, he should have had a red card. I mean, in the first half, I think it was the 25th minute. We've seen Inter Miami be a victim of this, where we've received 2 red cards, where if the foul happened anywhere else on the field, it wouldn't have even been a yellow. But due to circumstance, it was a red card. And so if we look at what happened with Ordaz, I mean, Mascherano said it in the press conference, this wasn't subjective. This wasn't something you sat and analyzed. This was objective. Mm-hmm. There was an aggression. It was disconnected from anything. He wasn't provoked. He just flat out hit him twice. It wasn't like he hit him once. He hit him twice.
Well, he said it perfectly. Like, that's a red card here in China and in the moon.
Yes, we've been a victim of it twice already. We've been a victim of it twice, so why isn't it the same consistency when it's against us?
I understand. And I thought, like I said, to be fair here, I thought it could have gone both ways. What stinks is he had the goal. Yeah. He had the goal in the 57th minute later on in that section, earlier on in the second half, rather, that really decided the game. I was not impressed with the way Inter Miami responded after the goal, though. Mm-hmm. I thought it would bring them together. We saw it against Atlanta United. Now, that was in the first half. This was a second half goal, which put LAFC up 1-0. But you guys mentioned the game plan for LAFC. Fair play to them. I mean, they really agitated Messi all night. I still think Messi had a good game, but they still agitated Messi all night. They completely took Luis Suarez out of the game. Jordi Alba was a non-factor, and Sergio Busquets, I thought was decent enough, but not good enough on the big four standards. Now, we do have sound from Javier Mascherano after the game. We won't listen to the whole thing. But, Damien, you brought up on the Spanish side, Mascherano had a lot of choice words to say. He thought that Nathan Ordaz should have been a red card. This is Mascherano on the English side explaining kind of what happened after the game.
Was a game that we expected. LA, they have good players, and they have players in front that they can do the difference. But I think we controlled them almost all the game in a good way. For me, obviously we didn't have the best night tonight, but at the end.
At the end, he cut it out, and he said at the end we're gonna go for the game at home next week. That's what he said with our people and our fans. And he said we control the game, guys. What's your? I wanna see you. I wanna hear you. What's your definition of controlling the game?
Controlling the game is, at least as far as this soccer team, it's Messi getting into space. It's controlling the ball. It's holding the ball. Now, I talked to Dave Denholm, the play-by-play man for LAFC, last night on Pink Smoke before the game. And he told me that LAFC was going to let Inter Miami have the ball and do their thing, and they wanted to hit on the counter.
That's what happened.
That's exactly what they did. I mean, that is exactly what LAFC did. They let Inter Miami control the ball the entire game and hit them on the counter. I thought as far as what they wanted to do, Elias, Inter Miami, yes, they did that, but it didn't lead to any goals. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
It did not lead to any goals. So game plan-wise, yes, it was probably exactly what they wanted to do, but it didn't lead to a result.
Right, we were lacking in that final third.
Didn't lead to the result. And 80 and on is when they really, I felt at least, Inter Miami started putting the pressure on. They took Yannick Bright out of the game in the 81st, and they wanted to go attacking with Redondo, and it didn't necessarily happen.
Yeah, and we noticed in this game the absence of Tadeo Allende, who's been a huge impact this season with Inter Miami, who unfortunately is out with a calf injury, and they don't expect him back till late April. Mm-hmm. But you really noticed that something was missing, because at times when Messi we expect Messi to kind of be that player that just does an out-of-world play, does something that's other players can't. But at times when Messi's not that guy, Tadeo Allende has been there for us. He's been the player that has created on his own. He has shot from outside of the box. He's been kind of the player with that personality. And I thought last night that's what was missing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the quality in front of net. The quality in front of net. And you think when Lionel Messi, is starting in a fixture like this, that certainly it'd be up to par. And I like that you brought up Allende not being in the lineup. You didn't see it from Pico. Pico got subbed off in the 67th. Both wingers got subbed off in that 67th minute in Segovia and Pico. So when I say Messi and a whole lot of nothing else, maybe outside of Yannick Bright, I truly mean that. And you're not going to win every game. You're not going to win every game. It just stinks that it happened to be the CONCACAF. Right?
100%.
This is a trophy I think that Messi wants to win. This is a trophy I think that could be very important when it comes to Messi and his legacy because, these guys think about this kind of stuff.
Yep. And you know what? Like, what worries me also is, like, the next game is going to be here at home. It's going to be next Wednesday. And the thing is, like, I think LAFC is going to do the same they did last night. I think they're going to defend the whole game, and they're going to let Inter Miami have the ball and basically say, let's just give the ball, and we're going to go in the counter and see what happens, because Inter Miami is going to go all out for that game, and we know that away goals here count double, so it's going to be a very intense and tough night next Wednesday here at Chase Stadium.
Yeah, and Damian, your best guess, I mean, of course they could, but do you think Inter Miami is going to be able to get the result that they want and moving on to the next round? I mean, LAFC, they had a game plan, but it's a different beast when you come to the fortress that is Chase Stadium.
Also, that flight to LA is a long flight, and being from Florida, like, that's probably the longest flight in the MLS, and that's a flight that players like Messi, Suarez, they in their careers, you rarely saw that when they used to play in Europe. Flights are way shorter, and I'm not saying that's an excuse, but it does play into things. You do have to adjust to the time change. You have to adjust. It's kind of like there's kind of like a lethargicness at the beginning of things.
Or remember, they used to play Champions League in Russia, Uzbekistan, like long travels too. But I mean, they were younger though.
Right, but I think now that's going to affect LA coming to Miami. I think Miami is going to be the more energized team on the field, and it's going to show. And at home, Inter Miami has been great at Chase Stadium, so I really expect a completely different act from Inter Miami here at home at the Chase Stadium against LA.
Now, explain, boys, to our listeners and our viewers about the aggregate, because it's different in CONCACAF.
Yeah.
So it's 1-0 right now, LAFC.
Yes, it's 1-0 to LAFC. If LAFC scores next Wednesday here, Inter Miami right now, so people know, Inter Miami with one goal, they tie the series. It's 1-1.
Yep.
Now, if LAFC scores one goal here, Inter will need to score 2 goals.
But that's only in the case of a tie.
Yeah.
So, for example, if Inter Miami goes up 3-0 here at home, and LAFC scores 1 goal and it's 3-1, there's no problem because it's not a tie.
Okay.
If the game ends up being 3-2 and on aggregate it's 2-2, because of the away goal, LAFC will advance.
Yep.
There won't be extra time.
And I wanted you guys to clarify that because I had a lot of buddies text me not understanding the rules, so I wanted to get
it's a tiebreaker. That's basically what it is.
Basically,
okay.
Yes.
Okay. So 1-0 LAFC currently up right now after winning that first game, and it was our Inter Miami Herons' first loss of the season. Boys, I still think that they're going to end up winning this and advancing, but that's neither here nor there. Let's move on to around the world because, as I said, international break is over. It's time to check in on the Premier League. Prem's back, and we got sound from Pep Guardiola. Wait, United played, guys. The last we're still on international break, right? They're still on break. Okay,
I feel bad for you because I told you that day United is gonna lose 1-0. It was a joke, though.
Yeah,
and I feel bad. I'm sorry about that.
Ruben Amorim talked about the pressure of being the gaffer at Manchester United. No one cares. And then Miguel Arteta, Gabriel, their star center back, is going to be out. As of right now, Liverpool has a 12-point lead on second place Arsenal in the Premier League. But boys, let's start with Arsenal. Let's start with Arteta because before we get to the sound, I think the Prem's over. I think it's booked. It's sealed. Liverpool is the champion. And I think you're just, at this point, teams like Chelsea, teams like Nottingham Forest, Arsenal, I think that they understand at this point you're jockeying for Champions League play next year.
100%. I mean, the idea was for Arsenal to now go all for Champions League, but it seems like none of that is gonna happen now. But it's over. It was over probably 3-4 weeks ago.
Right.
Yeah,
it's over. But like you mentioned, those 3 through 8, maybe 9 spots on the table, it's up in the air.
Right now, to Damien's point, 4th place, meaning the last team that gets Champions League qualification, that's Manchester City right now, and they're sitting at 51. Right behind them is Newcastle at 50, Chelsea at 49, Aston Villa. By the way, Villa's still alive in the Champions League, which we'll touch on in a second. Villa, though, is technically in 7th with 48 points. Brighton Hove and Albion, a.k.a. Brighton Hove, my God, I left the stove on. They're at 47. Fulham at 45. I'm not buying Bournemouth or Fulham, boys. I think it's Brighton, Villa, Chelsea, Newcastle, and City that are probably going to be jockeying for those situations.
And that's a bloodbath.
And boys, quickly, I wouldn't put it past Nottingham Forest falling on their face either. I'm not a Nottingham Forest supporter, or rather, not supporter is the wrong term, believer. I still think they don't have enough quality, but they keep proving me wrong. At every single turn. I do think teams like Chelsea and Newcastle are going to ultimately pass them. But, boys, I'd be remiss to say Chelsea's 8 points behind Nottingham. Newcastle, 7 points behind Nottingham. A lot's going to have to happen in order for Forest to fall out of that Champions League. I still don't buy them, though.
No, 100%. Oh, no, I buy them.
You buy Nottingham?
Yeah, I think they're going to go back to the
Here's
Champions
what's going to happen with Nottingham. Nottingham's going to make the Champions League next year, and they're going to get absolutely embarrassed. They're going to lose to a team that they have no business losing to. I think this is a year. Well, I hope I'm wrong. We've seen this with Leicester in the past. I know Leicester, nonetheless, won the Premier League, had a magical year. Teams like that, they don't have the money to stay consistent. They don't have the money to hang on to quality players.
Yeah, Nottingham, actually, you'd be surprised how much Nottingham spends.
Okay.
I don't think Nottingham's situation is different from – I mean, I do think it's different from Leicester because Leicester, they sold off. Basically, the only one they really kept was Jamie Vardy. But Nottingham, if you really analyze what they did going into the season, they spent a lot, more than a lot of the teams, even the top teams. So I think when they make Champions League, because I think they will make Champions League, I don't think they're going to be a team that sells off. I think they are going to be on the buying end.
Okay, so players like Alanga, Chris Wood.
They're there to stay.
Yeah.
I believe Gibbs White. I mean, players that have really made their mark at the club, they're not going to sell high? They're not going to sell high.
The thing is, that's
Fair
the
enough.
point. I buy them. The thing is, to your point, they will have a good campaign next season as long as they keep most of the players. You said Elanga, as long as he doesn't go, that's good. As long as Morgan Gibbs White doesn't go, it's good. So that's the thing. Also, this Nottingham team reminds me of the Wolves team. When they qualified to the Europa League. That team, they went all the way to the quarterfinals, if I'm not mistaken, again with Nuno at the helm. So I buy this team. I think they're going to have a good season next year.
To that point, boys, I keep forgetting we're darn near at the end of the Premier League season now. We're about a month and I'd say 12 days away, a month and to be exact, May 25th is the last fixture. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. These teams have about 9 games left. And Forest, they play the likes of Everton, Tottenham, Crystal Palace, Leicester, West Ham. Teams that they should probably get a full 3 against. Now, they do have Chelsea. They do have City. I still think Tottenham and Aston Villa and Everton, those are tough matchups, but I don't know. It's getting to the point where I might have to start putting stock into this team,
also,
and I can't believe it.
Also, to your point before, I'm sorry I'm going back again. You said City's 4th, Newcastle is 5th, 1 point difference. Remember that because Newcastle won the Carabao Cup, they already got a position in Europe. Now,
Europa League.
In Europa League. Right now, Europa League. Now, if they qualify to Champions League, their prize for winning the Carabao Cup goes to another team in the table.
And it's also worth noting, Newcastle and Chelsea have a game less than all the other guys, which they play each other today.
Yep.
So they can potentially find themselves in Champions League and Manchester City out of Champions League.
And to Elias's point, Damien, we saw last year, I know different cups and whatnot, but remember United won the FA, and they went to Europa, and Chelsea got knocked down in the Conference League.
Yeah.
And I believe maybe it was I think it was West Ham or no, it was Newcastle who got completely eliminated from Europe. But look what that did for Newcastle this year. Newcastle was able to win a trophy, and they've positioned themselves in the Premier League. You know, sometimes, boys, being out of Europe, like obviously you want to play in Europe. You want the money for your club. But with a team like Newcastle, who's Saudi-owned, do they necessarily need the money? They're able to focus on the Premier League and focus on other competitions and do well.
It's not so much profit for them.
Right. So it's interesting right now with the things going on in the Prem, but I did mention Arsenal is losing their star center back, Brazilian center back, Gabriel. He's not going to be back this season at all. And Miguel Arteta spoke to the media saying he hopes to have him back coming up here at the start of the next season.
With both of them, because there are two players in this team that never want to come off, are those two probably. So Gabi felt something in his hamstring. We don't know how big that is, and with Juren as well. He already was struggling very early in the game. He managed to continue. At some point he couldn't. So that's the downside to it.
So Juren was it hamstring?
No, Juren was the knee.
So there is Miguel Arteta speaking on the injury to Gabriel. I think we are all in agreement. Liverpool's Premier League this year, pending complete capitulation. One loss, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, boys?
I mean, Nottingham.
One loss, 22-7-1. Yeah, against you want to. All right. The Sherwood Forest and Robin Hood and Little John starting up top at striker. Damien, one loss for Liverpool this year. You're a Liverpool supporter. I mean, this has to be a dream scenario for a Liverpool supporter at this point. I know they're out of Champions League and FA Cup and whatnot, but, you know, Premier League, arguably one of the more valuable trophies in Europe.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was a great year for Liverpool. You would have loved to have won Champions League 2, as well as all the other trophies that, unfortunately, that loss to Newcastle, it was painful to watch. But other than that, I mean, the Premier League, really, Arne Slot, you got to give Arne Slot credit. For this being his first season taking over Jurgen Klopp, he's got a huge legacy at Liverpool. Just the way he's done it, the alterations he's done, and just the notion of the players that he has. I mean, full credit to him. Mm-hmm. And there's also a lot of question marks, you know, with Van Dijk, Mohamed Salah, Trent Alexander. So just to be able to shut out all those distractions and still be able to win a Premier League, I mean, you got to tip your hat off to Arne Slot.
And Elias, winning buys you time. Like, if this thing continues and Liverpool runs away with the Prem, even if you lose players like Van Dijk, Salah, and Trent Alexander-Arnold, I feel like there's an understanding that, hey, when Slot has quality, he's able to coach. And I feel like that could buy him a couple of years, even if they do lose their stars.
100%. And also, to credit of Arne Slot, we have to be honest. Like, the team he had, he didn't have to touch it a lot. The team he has already was built by Jurgen Klopp.
Right.
So Jurgen Klopp already left them like a path of success.
The blueprint.
You know? Yes. And obviously you need a mastermind to execute it, and Arne Slot did it very well. To your point, yes, I agree it's going to buy him some time. But at the same time, are you going to have the time to develop that player and fill those shoes from Van Dijk, Salah, and Trent?
There's a lot of question marks going into next year. There really is with Liverpool.
But I feel like when you win the league, it's going to buy you at least a year or two to be able to get stuff in. Now, I mentioned time. I mentioned pressure because my gaffer, Ruben Amorim, spoke specifically about the pressure he is facing at Manchester United and how he doesn't have the luxury to be losing fixtures.
We are talking about a lot of from players that come from Manchester United and they are doing right, but they had the chance here. In Manchester United, you don't have the time. I'm saying all the time, I will not have the time. We have to get it right fast. So we are talking about, but you are not talking about players that didn't play for Manchester United. They were here playing for Manchester United. In here, the pressure is too big sometimes.
So let me get this straight. United loses to Nottingham Forest. Robin Hood and Little John running through the forest. Deedle-dotty, what a fine day. I mean, I don't care. I don't care what universe I'm in, if it's a parallel universe, multi-universe. Manchester United should not lose to Nottingham Forest. And I think Liverpool has the same mentality. I think Arsenal has that same mentality with this team. And I think City has the same mentality with this team. I understand. And by the way, Amorim saying that stuff, it's like him pleading to the board of Manchester United, hey, give me time. Him saying stuff like that, in my opinion, is him pleading to the board to give him time. At this point, United would be stupid to not give Amorim time to try to turn this thing around because you stink. You already are a bad team with no quality. You have Bruno Fernandes and nobody else. Who outside, and I know this is the third or fourth time I've done this on this program. If you're a Manchester United fan, what player on that roster are you hanging on to and hooting and hollering about outside of Bruno Fernandes? For me, nobody.
But in that same breath.
The fact that Ruben Amorim thinks that he needs to say this stuff after a game because he's worried about getting fired is exactly why United is the toxic team they are.
If we analyze what's happened to every coach before him, they didn't have time. There was no patience from Manchester United with the head coaches. You know, Arteta at Arsenal, he's had a lot of leash. And United, every coach that has been there, they don't have that. They don't have the backing from the club. It's either you fix it in a month, you fix it in a season, or you're out. So I think it's a culture problem. And if you mentioned that you guys lost to Nottingham Forest, who was the best player in that game?
It was Alanga, former Manchester United right winger.
How much did you guys sell him for?
But at the same, here's the problem. At the time, right? It's all about time and place. Rashford had 35 goals in a season. You had Jadon Sancho, who wasn't all upset. But you hang on, you qualified for Champions League that year. You had Anthony, who Ten Hag just brought on. Listen, I don't blame United for selling off Alanga. I thought he was a bum as well. But fair play to Nottingham Forest and Alanga for getting a steal from United and having him be able to put together a good season and have him go to Champions League. I will not be hard on United for selling Alanga. That guy was a bum.
No, but again, to Damian's point, it's environment.
It's the culture.
It's a culture.
At this point, it's the culture.
You see Rashford go to Villa.
Every player that leaves Man United.
Champions League. Back to England team. He's playing in Aston Villa. He's scoring in Aston Villa.
Same
He's
league.
back to the National League. Same league. Is the team?
Anthony
are the players,
as well.
is the coach?
Well, it was Rashford's fault, remember? Rashford was the scapegoat for my team for years. I used to tell my United faithful, it's not Rashford.
I think at United,
I want to hear it. It's a mixture. And listen,
it's a culture thing.
I don't
That's
hate
the issue. It's culture.
I don't hate the Glazers as much as other United supporters. I just don't think they don't know anything about soccer, and they've hired the wrong people. They've hired the wrong people to trust their football. Now they bring in Ineos, and I think Ineos is as dumb as the Glazers when it comes to football. I don't think they know you-know-what from soccer as well. So I don't. You'd be dumb not to give Ruben Amorim a chance to do what he wants to do, and I hope they give him a blank check to be able to go out and get some players this offseason.
I think
because it wouldn't be fair. I think, guys, I think the plan was to just get through the year.
Yes.
The plan is to get through the year.
And it's been a horrible year.
Oh, it's been the worst Manchester United season since about the 60s.
But that's why he wanted to come in the summer. He knew this was going to happen. He saw the writing on the wall. He wanted to avoid this, come in the summer. But unfortunately, it was now or never. Right. And now we're here.
So, I don't know, boys. I'm a very upset United fan. But at the same time, let's just get to the end of the year. Hang on to Amorim. As much as I think you guys overreacted, and then this is our behind-the-scenes conversations that we had. You boys told me how much you believe in Amorim and how he's the right guy. I was a little skeptical about it. I call him Wonder Boy, and, Wonder Boy has been a nightmare this year, but I don't think anybody would have success
on
with
the
that
right
either.
side, you don't have Haaland this weekend, so you're good.
Yeah, thanks for that. Pep Guardiola, Manchester City gaffer. We have some funny sound of him. Is this
we have two.
Okay,
one for Haaland and one. What happens if I don't win the Premier League?
So let's the Haaland stuff. Haaland's going to be out, right?
Huge blow.
Haaland's going to be
about
out
7 months.
So we're not going to see him now. Wow. And listen, I'm not you guys. Me being a United guy, can't stand City, but fair play to City for going out and getting Marmoush. I think now, even though I think Marmoush is kind of better at a false nine, neither here nor there. But thank God they went out and got a striker, right? But let's hear Pep Guardiola talk about how he doesn't get a raise if he doesn't win the league.
I remember Jose Mourinho said that finishing second behind you in the 100-point season, he regarded as one of his greatest achievements because of the competition and everything and all the issues he faced. Would it be one of your most satisfying achievements to get this team and to continue that Champions League qualification? No. No, but in a different context from winning trophies.
They don't give me bonus. When I win the Premier League, I have bonus.
Pardon?
When I win the Premier League, I have bonus. Now I don't have bonus.
But you said
so
you
it's valid achievements that.
But would it be satisfying in a different context?
Yeah, of course. I understand. I understand when Jose said this this quote and understand the intention of your question. Of course, will be.
If I don't win the Premier League, I don't get a bonus.
He ain't winning this year with 51 points and Liverpool with 73. Boys, before we move on to the pitch preview, is City going to spend $1 billion this offseason and probably come back and win the Prem next year?
Yes.
That's
100%.
Yes.
100%.
like,
I mean, we've seen
it's
it
like
time
a
and time.
no doubt. Boys, I'm laughing because I am right there with you. They will win the Premier League next year. I
They
feel
will
very
clean the
confident in
team.
saying
they
that.
will clean the team and then spend all the money.
Jackie Grealish, gone. Kyle Walker, I know he's, AC right now, but he'll be gone when he comes back from loan. And
Rodri will
whatnot.
be back.
De Bruyne will be out.
Well,
too.
we saw how important Rodri was for that team, but I thought, nonetheless, I thought it was pretty funny there by our good buddy Pep Guardiola. By the way, does Pep want to come over to United? I'll trade him Wonder Boy for Pep Guardiola. You think they do that? You think
Man,
they
if
do
he
that?
gets frustrated at Manchester City, imagine the scratches on his bald head at Manchester United. Have you seen the pictures of when he gets really frustrated?
Yeah, trust me.
Imagine that and imagine all the trophies Amorim is going to win.
Did you hear how upset I was that United's losing to Nottingham Forest, that I decided to sing the Robin Hood and Little John tune to Sherwood Forest and the Disney movie? I mean, Howard, that's what Manchester United has become, a Mickey Mouse club that is losing to Sherwood Forest. Let's move on to the pitch preview, though, because we do have Champions League games that are going to be happening. As you guys know, on West Palm FC, we record on Thursdays and Fridays, but we will be having some fixtures. Boys, quickly, out of Arsenal and Real Madrid, PSG, Aston Villa, Bayern Munich and Inter Miami, Barcelona and Dortmund. Which matchup are you looking forward to the most, Elias? I think I know where you're going.
I'm going for the Arsenal game. 100% I'm going to the Arsenal game. I was talking to Damon and I told him, if we had the complete 11, all the guys healthy, I'm telling you, we had a good chance of beating Real Madrid. And I'm talking honestly, at least a great game. Now, I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm looking forward to that game. And I'm also looking forward for the Inter Milan against Bayern Munich. Inter Milan, no one's talking about that team, so watch out.
So, Damian, he's going with those two fixtures. Is there one that's sticking out to you? And, I know you're a Barcelona guy, Dame. You kind of said, Riz, Real Madrid getting away with another easy matchup.
Yeah. Coming in, that was the matchup. That was the obvious matchup. Arsenal, Real Madrid. That was the one where you look at it and you're just very excited for it. But it seems to me that every year, something happens that benefits Real Madrid. Whether it's an injury with the other team, whether it's a questionable call, it's always in Champions League. I don't know what they do, what god they look up to, but it's just something, man.
Now, I will say, at least Bukayo Saka is back and in form. He scored a goal against Fulham in his first game back.
Yeah, but we lost Gabriel, so I don't know. And I just want to.
And Mourinho's turning into a true striker.
Yeah, that's true too.
Right?
That's true. But I know I said Bayern Munich, Inter. I think I'm between Bayern and Inter, and also PSG, Aston Villa, because PSG is playing so good. PSG.
I want to see if they're for real. But Aston Villa, I mean, that's one of the most favorable matchups. Although they've done great up to now, you can argue that's probably one of the most favorable matchups they could have got.
I just want to watch PSG for Dembélé, Vitinha, and João Neves.
Now, you guys are higher on PSG than I am. I think that's going to come crashing down sooner than later. I just think other teams, and even like Villa, I think Villa has more quality than PSG. I think PSG has really relied on Dembélé to score goals. I mean, guys, when has Dembélé ever been someone you could rely on to score goals? He's someone you get it out in the wide areas that makes passes and makes plays to the goal.
Definitely did not see that at Barcelona.
He is certainly a player that has, he could win the Golden Boot in this competition if he continues this. The matchups I'm looking at, it is Arsenal and Real Madrid, because I think Arsenal's actually going to give Real a scare. I think Saka is one of the best wingers in world football. And I do think that at home, at least, the home fixture coming up on April 8th. By the way, Arsenal, the first home game, even though they were ranked higher, Real Madrid will get that second home game. Usually you like that flipped. Makes no sense, but this is where we're at. So I'm going to go with Arsenal, Real Madrid. I do think it's going to be. I told you boys the last episode we recorded, I hope it's not an El Clasico in the Champions League final. But if you ask me, I do think it's going to be El Clasico
shaping up to
championship
be.
in the final. It certainly is.
Shaping up to be.
So, boys, episode 3, West Palm FC. That's going to wrap things up here. Appreciate everybody who watch and listen. Give us a subscription. Turn those notifications on it'll let you guys know the next time we post. We'll catch you next time. We'll see you later. Bye.